Brittany. How are
Hi,
you?
how are you? It's great to see you.
Yeah, me too. Thanks a lot for being here with us.
Thank you so much for having me. It's really nice to talk to you again. It's been a little while.
I
Happy
know. Okay, I will just make a quick introduction and then we can start the interview. Is that okay?
Great. Bueno,
Thank you. Bueno, entonces, para los que nunca se habían conectado a este programa, bueno, lo que hacemos es que cuando tenemos invitados de otros países, como en este caso de Brittany, que es de Estados Unidos, yo hago la traducción al mismo tiempo, entonces no se preocupen si en una parte está solamente en inglés, porque después yo lo voy a escribir y se los voy a traducir todo. Entonces, estas son entrevistas que estaba haciendo, como les dije, a diseñadores, a tintoreros, artistas, para que nos cuenten sus historias, sus caminos y cómo llegaron a lo que están haciendo ahora. Entonces, a mí me gusta escuchar estas historias porque siento que nos inspiran también a nosotros a encontrar nuestro propio camino y nuestras pasiones. Entonces, bueno, el día de hoy, como les dije hace ratito, vamos a entrevistar a Brittany Boles de seaspellfiber. Ella es de Estados Unidos. Ella es tintorera, especialista en índigo. Ella cultiva, extrae, tiñe con sus propios tintes, crea pigmentos y también creó el grupo de Facebook de Pigment Extraction Methods. Sí. Y y bueno, do you think it's necessary to make an introduction in English? Maybe just a little one,
yeah,
right? Yeah.
sure. Great.
Okay, yeah, because yeah, I don't know if someone is only speaking English, so okay. So as I was telling in Spanish, I will be doing the translation between English and Spanish. So don't worry if you're listening to me speaking in Spanish. There will be also an English version. I've been doing these interviews to different dyers, artists, textile artists too, so they can like share with us their paths and the path they took to follow their passions. I get really inspired listening to these stories, so I also want to share them with you. So, well, sometimes the interviews are in Spanish, other times in English, and or even in French. Unfortunately, I can't make the translation to all those different languages, but in my YouTube channel, you can activate the English subtitles, and maybe there you can see, yeah, you can watch them in English. So, okay, today we are talking with Brittany Boles. She's from seaspellfiber. She's a natural dyer, and I told that in English. No, I don't think so. Right? No, I'm a little bit confused between my Spanish and English versions.
Yeah.
Oh,
What were you asking?
okay, so she grows, extracts, and dyes with her own indigo. She also creates her pigments, and she has a Facebook group called Indigo Extraction Methods if you want to join and look for it. So, yeah, I think that's it. So let's start. So, how are you? Can you tell us maybe a little bit about yourself? Where are you from? Where do you live?
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you so much. I really appreciate you doing the translation and just the whole series. I think it's just so wonderful and so inspiring to hear people's stories. So I'm really glad that you're doing this. Thanks for having me. So my name is Britt Boles, and I live on the Oregon coast in a really small town. I live right next to the Pacific Ocean, and I have a daughter who is 7 next week,
Well,
and I'm with my husband Andy here in just a small town. It has like a four-way stop, really, really small town. And I've lived here for about 8 years. So I grew up in Oregon. This land is indigenous to the Chinook and Siletz and Nehulam peoples.
what's the name
I
of
did
Chinook?
Chinook, Nehulam, and
Okay.
also Siletz people. So this is the Indigenous Lands. We live right next to a tidal estuary, a really, really important gathering place where people would use it for both food, travel, community, and this land has actually recently been returned to the Clatsop and Nehalem peoples, which is very exciting. There's a tidal marsh area that now belongs to them again after 200 years. So it's really exciting.
What's the name of the people? Sorry,
the tribe is called Nehalem. And Nehalem and Chinook. So there were several tribes that intersected right here, right where I live. So they have what's called a confederated tribe. It's kind of like a combined tribal nation. So this place is, like I said, it's really important. And it is a really lush, green, vegetated space. We have a lot of native mushrooms and evergreens. It's always, well, not always raining, but it rains here a lot. So it's a really lush, beautiful place to live. I'm really lucky to grow up here. I don't know if you want me to pop up there.
Let me translate that. Thank you. Ok, le pregunté a Brittany que nos contara un poco sobre ella, de dónde es, dónde vive. Entonces ella primero que nada dijo que muchas gracias, que aprecia mucho estar aquí y que, bueno, que haya esta traducción entre el inglés y el español y escuchar todas estas historias inspiradoras. Ella vive en Oregon, al lado del Océano Pacífico, en un pequeño pueblo. Tiene una niña de 7 años y vive con ella y junto con su esposo. En donde ella vive es un pueblo muy pequeño. Ella vive aquí desde hace 8 años y es un pueblo que también fue habitado por culturas indígenas, que la verdad es que no sé bien cómo se escriben las tribus que me dijo, pero me parece que es Chinook y Navajo. No, ya.
Yeah.
Ella vive al lado de un santuario en donde la gente lo usa también, lo usan como comunidad y lo usan para hacer varias cosas. Y bueno, al parecer una parte de estas tierras se les regresó ya a estas tribus, a una de estas tribus. Y bueno, es un lugar muy, bueno, muy importante, muy hermoso, con mucha naturaleza, muchos hongos. Llueve mucho y ella se siente muy, aprecia mucho el hecho de, muy agradecida de vivir ahí. Entonces, bueno, esa fue la primera parte. Sorry, Brittany. Yeah. You want to say something else or about that book?
I can say a little bit about my dye journey, or you could ask me about that also.
About what, sorry?
Did you want me to talk about how I got into indigo, or should we wait?
Oh, no, it's yeah, we can talk about it. Well, first of all, I wanted to ask you, what did you study? Did you always wanted to work with textiles and natural dyes?
Yeah, actually, I started out my adult career as a piano instructor. So I did that full time for about 12 years before I got into natural dyes. So growing up, I dabbled in textiles. My mom was really great at making clothing. And, you know, she taught us the basics of how to sew and the basics of how to knit. But it wasn't until I was an adult that I really appreciated all of those arts, all of those craft forms. And so about 7 years ago, right after I moved here to the coast from the big city, Portland, that's when I began learning about natural dyes, and it started with indigo.
Okay. Wait. Okay. Le pregunté a Brittany que qué estudió ella, que si ella siempre había querido como trabajar con textiles y con tintes naturales. Entonces ella me dijo que de hecho ella, como su carrera de adulto, empezó como instructora de piano. Ella trabajó por 12 años de tiempo completo haciendo esto. Y fue más, bueno, pero también al mismo tiempo cuando ella fue creciendo, ella estuvo muy involucrada con los textiles porque su mamá era muy buena en hacer ropa y ella le enseñó lo básico de costura, pero no fue sino hasta que creció que realmente llegó a apreciar todo esto. Como ella dijo, antes de vivir en este pueblito, ella vivía en Portland, en una ciudad, y fue ahí donde ella realmente también aprendió sobre tintes, y el primer tinte que aprendió fue el índigo. Okay. So, how did you make this link between your studies and natural dyes? Because I don't know, music is really different to the textile world.
Yeah.
So I don't know how that happened.
Yeah, that's a great question. And actually, there was a point in time where I thought maybe they weren't quite as connected as I realize they are now. Essentially, the way that I've learned, the way that I go about learning is just with a curiosity for connection. So I'm driven by source connection. And that is kind of the underbelly of everything that I do. And so when it comes to creating music or creating poetry or working with plants at the seed source, working with color at the source, I think that there is a really poetic connection. There's a lot of metaphor. There's, a ton of spiritual connection in all of those art forms. I think are an expression. And so how we express ourselves, right, are through all of these different tools. And I've dabbled in so many, but some of them really stick with me. Some of them are really big teachers in my life. And so indigo has been a big teacher. The piano has been a big teacher, but there are lots of little teachers that I think help me learn how to change perspective, work with what's around me, communicate with others, right? So although I'm not always singing or playing when I'm dyeing, I'm always listening to music in the studio. And I created a playlist of music called Blue Beats, and it's just all the songs that mention blue. Anything with indigo, anything with azul, anillo, blue, right? I'm attracted to those songs, and so I collected them. And there's a lot of them. Blue is a really important color to people, so we sing about it a lot. But I'll take you. Chances that.
Oh, that's great. I love your answer because I really think they are really connected, like in a spiritual way. Well, I'm not very good at music, but I understand what you mean.
Yeah.
Okay, I'll make the translation. Bueno, le pregunté que cómo había hecho como esta unión entre sus estudios y los tintes naturales, porque bueno, la música y los textiles en realidad son muy distintos, entonces le pregunté cómo había hecho ella para unir estos dos. Entonces ella dice que bueno, o sea que había un tiempo en donde ella pensó que realmente todo estaba conectado, tanto la música con los tintes, la forma como, como aprendió es por esta curiosidad que ella tiene por la conexión, como la conexión como a la fuente, que cuando ella crea música o poesía, o también cuando está trabajando con colores, es como esta conexión la que lo une. Hay una conexión como muy poética, como muchas metáforas, una conexión espiritual, y es una expresión. Entonces, como nos expresamos es usando estas diferentes herramientas, pero algunas de ellas realmente se quedaron en su vida. Por ejemplo, el índigo y el piano para ella han sido muy buenos maestros. Ella dice que hay muchos como pequeños maestros alrededor que nos van enseñando cosas. Y bueno, cuando ella tiñe, ella dice que, bueno, ella no canta ni toca, pero ella siempre está escuchando música. Y de hecho, ella creó una lista de Spotify que se llama Blue Beats. Por si la quieren buscar, la voy a anotar aquí. Y ahí puso puras canciones que hablan sobre el índigo, sobre el azul, sobre, pues sí, todo lo relacionado con este color, que es un color muy importante. Entonces, bueno, ya lo puse en el chat, por si lo quieren buscar. Okay, so tell us why you're passionate about natural dyes.
Yes, and I just saw someone ask about where the playlist is. There's a link in my bio too. You can just go right to my seaspellfiber bio and just click on my little link tree, and it's right there. But great question about how why natural dyes, right? Is that what you asked? Yeah.
Yeah.
So initially, my curiosity was piqued through watching another artist. There's an artist who shares sometimes on Instagram, Rachel Bloodgift of Serpent and Bow, and she's in California. She's an artist who creates with natural dyes, mostly on underwear and undergarments, but she makes these beautiful ritualistic patterns drawn mostly with batik, so wax resist.
Yeah.
And she was utilizing natural dyes. And there's so many artists, but she was the first one that I had followed, kind of opened my eyes to indigo as not just a color, but a plant. And I just went down the rabbit hole of finding out, where does this plant grow? What does the plant look like? Can I grow the plant? Where do I get seeds? Who else is growing it? So my curiosity was piqued just by her sharing her artwork. And then I thought, it really made me consider the questions of who is making my clothing, and how are they making it, and what are they making it with? And those are questions that I honestly had never asked myself. I was actually quite a clothes horse. Like, I would buy clothing, fast fashion. I loved shopping, and I loved expressing myself through clothing, but I had no awareness. I had zero connection to who and what and how it was being made. And so she just happened to be the first artist that I came across who was talking about it and showing and really sharing intimately her process. And that's the connection piece for me that really piqued my curiosity, and it made me, like I said, do all the research that I could, anything I could get my hands on that had to do with natural indigo. And then that opened up the whole world, the whole spectrum of all the other plants, marigolds, coreopsis, weld, load, madder, right?
Okay, wait, I'm just finishing the translation. Okay. Ok. Le pregunté que por qué ella era como tan, o sea, por qué se sentía tan apasionada por los tintes naturales, y ella me dijo que, bueno, que todo empezó al ver a un artista que se cruzó en su camino, que me parece que se llama, could you please write us the name of the artist? Because I can't really. Thanks a lot. Va a escribir el nombre del artista en el chat, porque la verdad es que no sé cómo se escribe. Es Rachel algo. Y ella tiene una marca de ropa interior. Ella tiñe, al parecer, ropa interior hermosa con batik, que el batik es una técnica de reserva que se hace con cera. Entonces, esto a ella le inspiraba muchísimo, porque ya, sí, ahí está el nombre ya de la página, es Serpent and Bow. Entonces esto a ella le inspiraba muchísimo, y ella fue la primera que le inspiró, como que le abrió los ojos y le hizo empezar a investigar sobre la planta, cómo se hace, cómo se puede conseguir, quién más está, por ejemplo, creciendo este índigo. Entonces ella empezó a investigar y le dio muchísima curiosidad y a buscar todo lo que pudo al respecto. Y también le hizo hacerse varias preguntas. Preguntarse quién está haciendo su ropa, cómo hacen su ropa, con qué la hacen. Antes, la verdad, ella no se hacía estas preguntas, y le gustaba comprar ropa porque era una forma como de expresarse ella misma, pero compraba ropa donde fuera, incluso en moda rápida, y nunca se había hecho estas preguntas. Entonces, esta artista, cuando la conoció y vio todo su trabajo y cómo mostraba todo su proceso, ella le dio muchísima curiosidad y empezó también a investigar. Y de esto, del índigo, que fue el primero que llegó a su vida, esto lo llevó a otras plantas también, como puede ser la rubia, que en inglés es el madder, bueno, en México que le llamamos el cempasúchil, o bueno, ya no me acuerdo, ajá, bueno, el madder, coreopsis, y otras plantas también. Ok, thanks, Brittany. So, which persons, places, situations took you to this path? Maybe you can tell us. Maybe you have already told us some of them, but I don't know if there are other people who have, yeah, who arrive into your life, and I don't know.
Yeah, they arrived into my life and changed it and turned it upside down, really.
Oh, that's great.
One of the first people to really impact me in this journey is my friend Kara of Vibrant Valley Farm, and I'll type in her at as well here.
Thank you.
So, like I said, I was just going down this rabbit hole of on the internet. Thankfully, there's so much information that's available on Instagram and Facebook, and people who would share blogs. And I started searching in my area if anyone was growing indigo. And there are several different types of indigo-bearing plants. I grow Persicaria tinctoria. It's often called Japanese indigo. But there are many other different types of plants and other families. Like where you live, there's the indigo feras, the Soprodicosa, anil. But this one, the one that I grow, particularly is adaptable to a lot of different regions. So it's not very hot where I live. Like I mentioned, it rains a lot. And so I was looking for a plant that could thrive in my environment. And I saw that there was this plant existed, and I got really lucky. I started following Kara through following hashtags, just through following Persicaria tinctoria and Japanese indigo. I saw that she was in her first year growing it, and she lived an hour and a half away from me.
Wow.
And so her and her farm partner, Elaine of Vibrant Valley Farm, had just grown their very first crop of indigo. And I wrote to them, I emailed them, and I asked if I could come and buy it or take a class or just like come and meet the plant. And that started my really journey in growing the plant myself. So now I'm going into my 6th season of growing the plant here at the Oregon coast. Kara gave me some of my very first plants and showed me where I could get seed.
Great.
So I call her my indigo fairy godmother.
Oh, that's great. So how much time did you say you've been growing indigo?
So this is going to be my 6th season.
6 years. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
This will be my 6th season.
That's amazing. So even though you said that where you live it's not very hot, so it doesn't matter, it grows okay in that kind of weather.
Yeah, it loves water. It can even grow in the shade. It does need sun, and we get a good stretch in the summertime, but we don't get hot temperatures. So like Fahrenheit, it gets to be like 70s here, which I think is like 40 centigrade. I'm not sure.
I'm not sure, but I can say it in Fahrenheit and then we can look for it.
Yeah.
Okay. Bueno, le pregunté que qué personas o qué situaciones la habían llevado a este camino. Ya nos había contado algunas, pero quería ver si quería agregar. Entonces ella me dijo que sí, que su amiga Cara aquí nos escribió un nombre en el chat, Vibrant Valley Blue, por si quieren buscarlo en Instagram. Y bueno, ella empezó a buscar muchísima información en Instagram, en Facebook, empezó a preguntar en su área si alguien sembraba índigo, porque realmente tenía mucha curiosidad y quería empezar a hacerlo. Entonces, con lo primero que ella empezó como a involucrarse fue con la Persicaria tinctoria. Este es el índigo japonés. Y bueno, esta planta tiene la característica de que se adapta a muchos lugares, porque donde ella vive llueve mucho y en realidad no hace tanto calor. Hay otros tipos de indigóferas, como por ejemplo las de México, que necesitan mucho calor para poder crecer, y esta tiene la característica que no. Ah, miren, tiene justamente ahí la planta en sus manos, por si la quieren ver. Hermosa. It's beautiful. Thank you. Y bueno, entonces dice que ella empezó a investigar incluso siguiendo hashtags, Y bueno, encontró a una persona, a esta señora que se llama Cara, que tiene una granja a a 1 hora y media de donde ella vive. Entonces ella le llamó y le dijo, quiero ir a ver la planta, no sé si me puedas dar un curso, me puedas hablar sobre cómo puedo yo hacer esto. Entonces ella fue y consiguió su primera plantita de índigo. Y bueno, así fue como empezó. Ella ahorita ya lleva 6 años sembrando su propio índigo y Cara de Vibrant Valley Farm se convirtió en su especie como de su madrina de índigo. Entonces esa es la historia. Okay. So, did you have any natural dye experiences abroad or in the US maybe? I don't know, in other parts.
I haven't yet. I really would love to. In fact, it's on my wish list. As soon as it's safe to do so, I would actually love to come to Mexico and I would love to go for the anillo harvest. In Nogalpi, there's some farmers that I've got to know, and it would just be a dream for me to go and travel there. I'd also love to go to Japan, to Tokushima, and to learn there as well. But I have not got the opportunity to do that yet, partially because of COVID, but
I know.
also because I have a small child. But she's getting older. She's getting to that age where it'll be really fun for me to take her, because I want to bring her with me. I want her to come and have those experiences with me. Yeah, but through the internet, through online, I've been able to learn from a lot of folks, and I'm so grateful. One of those people is John Marshall. John Marshall doesn't have an Instagram, but he does have a website, and he teaches and also has a book called Singing Blues. It's not in reach, but if you go to his website, which is johnmarshall.pm.
TM? Okay.
TM, yeah.
TM, okay.
TM.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. And he's a wonderful, generous teacher. Another wonderful, generous teacher that I got to learn from, he lives in France, but he was in California, he was in the States, is Michel Garcia. Yeah. Michel Garcia has some, and you know, he's not really on Instagram either. Maybe he is, maybe not. But he also has wonderful DVDs, a DVD series, and also he teaches, he does come to the States a lot, and he travels quite a bit to teach in other places. So I got to learn from him a couple of years ago as well. Another person that's really influenced me is Liz Spencer, and she's the dogwood dyer. She is on Instagram. I can add her.
Okay.
I found a lot of her blogs early on in my natural dye journey that were so helpful. And she also is teaching a big series right now online. You can join in for the year. She's in the year of natural dyes. And she's someone who I really was influenced by as a grower. So she was growing her natural dyes in her backyard, you know? Wow. And that was really inspiring to see the accessibility of natural dyes. And that opened up like the whole world of, oh gosh, there are all these other natural dyers. So I was online finding groups like natural textile dyeing, natural dye education. All of these are groups on Facebook.
Yeah.
And all those folks were sharing plants they were growing, how they were using extracts that they would buy, processes. And so there was just this whole wide world that I got to dive into, and that's how the indigo pigment extraction methods group started.
Okay,
I can tell you
now I understand that. Yeah. I also learned from Michel Garcia. He was the first one who taught me how to do it.
Oh, yeah. Oh, amazing. Yeah, he's really incredible. I think has influenced a lot of people.
Yeah. Okay. Entonces le pregunté por su experiencia con tintes naturales, si tenía alguna en el extranjero o en Estados Unidos. Entonces me dice que no, que en el extranjero aún no ha tenido, pero que le encantaría tenerlas y sobre todo, por ejemplo, le gustaría venir a México e ir a ver la extracción de índigo que se hace en Niltepec, que es en el istmo de Tehuantepec, en Oaxaca. A ella le encantaría ver eso con algunos productores. También le encantaría ir a Japón, a Tokushima. Pero bueno, ahorita no ha podido hacerlo, sobre todo también por el COVID y porque tiene una hija pequeña, como dijimos, de 7 años. Pero una vez que su hija crezca, va a ser mucho más fácil que ella comience a tener más de estas experiencias y que pueda compartirlas también con su hija. Entonces, bueno, pero a pesar de que no ha ido a otras partes en el extranjero, ella ha aprendido también de muchas personas en línea. Dice que, por ejemplo, de John Marshall, que se los puse en el chat más arriba si lo quieren, ahí puse el nombre. John Marshall no está en Instagram, pero tiene su página de internet, que es johnmarshall.tm. También está Michelle García, que bueno, como les he comentado en otras ocasiones, él fue mi maestro también, él fue quien me inició en el mundo de los tintes naturales. Y él tampoco tiene Instagram, pero también lo pueden encontrar, me parece, no
He's
recuerdo el
on
nombre de
Facebook.
sus sitios. Yeah, he's on Facebook,
He's
but I
on
think
Facebook.
he has like Couleur de Plante or something like that. But I don't remember the name. Ok, está Liz Spencer, que tiene su Instagram que se llama, creo que lo escribió aquí ella, se llama The Dog Wood Dyer en Instagram. Ella también le ayudó muchísimo y ella, bueno, ella le inspiró porque ella crece sus propios tintes naturales en su jardín y eso da muchísima accesibilidad y nos abre un mundo de posibilidades. Entonces, esto fue lo que realmente le inspiró. Y bueno, también hay muchísimos grupos en Facebook. Hay un grupo que se llama Natural Dye Education, el que inició ella, que les digo que es Indigo Extraction Methods, que también está en Facebook si se quieren unir. Entonces, bueno, hay muchísimos grupos y muchísimas formas y hay todo un mundo de información y de conocimiento. Entonces, okay, so maybe you can just tell us a little bit about your experience growing and dying with indigo, because you grow your own indigo at your home, right?
Yeah, so I grow it in a couple of locations. I grow it in my backyard in pots. And the reason I grow it in pots is because I live on a sand dune. So there's not a lot of soil. So it's a lot of rock and sand. So
Okay.
for me to grow successfully, I use a lot of container growing. And then I also have been growing in partnership with a farm in Nehalem called North Fork 53. And I'll put their tag as well. The farmer is a friend who really taught me everything that I know about soil and gardening. She's a farmer who had been farming vegetables primarily for years, and now she grows tea, both herbal teas, medicinal teas, and also Camellia sinensis, which is like the tea, the green tea, black tea. And she was the person who basically allowed me to give birth to my dream of having a dye garden. And so I grew on her farm for the past several years and was able to grow several rows of Japanese indigo. There's varieties of Japanese indigo within the plant family. So I've grown 6 different varieties of the plant.
Wow.
And so several rows of marigolds, of cosmos, of weld, some sunflowers, safflower. I've been growing madder at home, mostly in pots, but lots of the other dye flowers as well. And so this opportunity that the farmer gave me allowed me to kind of include the rest of the community in community harvest, in workshop days, in fresh indigo days, and also in an event that has become an annual tradition called Indigo Fest. And Indigo Fest has evolved into a business, and I co-direct and partner with Iris Sullivan Dare. She's a local dyer and weaver, and I'll put her in here as well. She goes by Dreambird Studio. But we also collectively have indigo.fest, and that's our website where we post our joint communal classes and events that happen throughout the year. So we are hosting Indigo Fest this August. It's going to be the last weekend in August. You can join our newsletter on the website if you click through on the indigo.fest. I don't know if you want me to pause, but I can say a little more.
That sounds amazing. Like an amazing experience to go there and really, the Indigo Fest. Maybe one day I can be able to go there.
Yeah, that would be amazing. I would love it.
Yeah. So sorry, I can't like say like a lot of things to you because I'm just like writing at the same time in Spanish.
No, you're amazing. You're doing it.
A little bit
I
crazy.
can say a little bit more about growing the plant specifically, but I'll let you translate first if you want to.
Okay, thank you. Okay, le pregunté que cuál ha sido su experiencia creciendo el índigo, que si ella crece el índigo en su casa. Entonces ella dice que sí, que ella crece índigo en su jardín, pero en macetas, porque donde ella vive es como una duna de arena. Entonces realmente lo único que hay es roca y arena y no puede ahí sembrar, entonces lo hacen macetas. Pero ella tiene una granja con la que colabora que se llama North Folk 33, que es un granjero que es un amigo y ella le enseña, él le enseñó todo lo que hay que saber sobre la tierra y jardinería. Él crece, bueno, siembra tés y frutas, sobre todo el camelia, que es de donde sacan el té negro y el té verde. Entonces le ha enseñado muchísimo sobre el proceso de la tierra y ahí es donde ella también ha estado sembrando sus plantas tintorias. Entonces ellos, como les digo, pudieron hacer su realidad este sueño de tener un jardín tintorio. Ella crece el índigo japonés, que como les dije hace rato es el Persicaria tintoria, pero el índigo japonés tiene en sí muchas variedades, entonces tiene 6 diferentes variedades de índigo japonés. Y también tiene marigolds, que son en México le llamamos cempasúchil, cosmos, tiene gualda, tiene rubia tintoria, que es para sacar el rojo, tiene girasoles, y bueno, la rubia sobre todo la tiene en su casa en macetas. Pero bueno, todo esto ha sido como una gran oportunidad también para involucrar al resto de la comunidad que vive alrededor de ella, porque todo se ha convertido como en un evento y en una tradición. Cada año hacen un evento que le llaman Indigo Fest y como que toda la comunidad está involucrada y se asocia con otra chica que está en Instagram como Dream Bird Studio, y este evento lo hacen en agosto, el último fin de semana. Entonces ella también, no se olviden ir a checar el Instagram de Brittany, que es seaspellfiber, y ahí ella siempre está poniendo información al respecto sobre el Indigo Fest y todos los otros eventos que ella organiza. Entonces, okay, so we can continue with the growing part, I think.
Yeah, if anyone's curious, just to know, this Japanese indigo plant, it's easy to start. It's an easy plant to take care of, and I believe there's other growers in Mexico growing the Persicaria tinctoria as well as the indigo fera. So it is very adaptable. I know people in Brazil who are growing it, and I know people in Norway who are growing it, and everywhere in between. So this plant, it is a multiple harvest plant. That means I can cut it back and it grows again, and I can cut it back and grow again.
Really?
Kind of endlessly throughout the season. So for me, it's an annual, and it is in most places an annual, although if you live in a warmer climate closer to the equator, it self-seeds pretty easily. And can kind of regenerate as a perennial. But for me, I start seeds in spring, and then I transplant those seeds into the ground in May, and then I get my first harvest usually about 6 weeks later.
Usually what, sorry?
6 weeks later, about June.
Okay.
And from then on, the plant grows back so quickly that I can't keep up with it. So I'm really doing harvest based off of like my time and my resources. But I usually typically get about 3 to 4 harvests from the whole plant. And so it grows back so quickly. It propagates really easily. You can cut the stem and put it in water and it will root out in 4 days. And actually, I know some people are growing it hydroponically. In fact, there's a member of the Indigo Pigment Extraction Methods group on Facebook who just posted his blog on growing it last season hydroponically with great success. So it's a really, like I said, this plant is so adaptable, so generous, and there's lots of different ways to process it. Initially, when I met the plant, people were primarily talking about processing it one of 2 ways, either through blending it up in a blender, fresh, and using it right immediately onto mostly protein fibers. And the other way people were using it was to dry the leaves like this.
Okay.
And then talking about the traditional method in Japan, which is composting it. So this plant is native to Japan, China, Vietnam, the Philippines, Laos, Thailand, most of Asia is where this plant is native to. And it's a riparian zone plant, which means it grows along mostly riverbanks, waterways, marshes. So, like I said, it loves water. So growing it hydroponically, actually, it makes sense. But another person that I was learning from initially was Roland Ricketts, and he is also on Instagram. He's where I got my very first large batch of seeds. And he always sells seeds each year, although I think he's already sold out.
Okay.
I don't want anyone to get sad about that. But you can get on his newsletter and you can learn a lot from him. He's also somebody who travels around to teach. Another great place to get seeds that's going to be available this weekend is Grand Prismatic Seeds. These are all U.S. growers. I do have a list of seed sellers. There is someone in in Mexico growing this variety, and I wish I had it available. But if you join the group, I can direct you to the seed sale page. So a very easy plant to grow, very adaptable, but it's frost tender. So where I live, it freezes in the wintertime, and so that's when the plant dies.
Okay. So if I understood correctly, then you do like 4 different indigo extraction processes per year?
Yeah, so I can talk about that too. Yeah. I can get at least 3 to 4 extractions. Yes. So initially when I started, there weren't a lot of people doing the extraction process. Yeah. There were people, but it wasn't on the internet. Like there wasn't a blog or how to. I found John Marshall had shared some information about his extraction, and that is what kind of took me down that journey of starting the group and finding more people who were doing the process but just hadn't, shared it fully online. And it started with just me and 4 friends trying to figure out how we were going to process this indigo and how to get blue out of it. And I slowly started adding people to the group who had done the process before and who were willing to share with us. And it became like a global group project of people who were growing the plant and experimenting with different ways of processing it. Because the extraction process is ancient, and every continent kind of developed their own way of processing indigo. And sometimes they would use water extraction, and sometimes they would use drying the plant. And sometimes it was just direct batting, like picking the plant and using it immediately.
Okay, so yeah, well, I have like the curiosity. So you use like the same extraction method as in Japan? Well, that's not extraction; it's like sukumo, or you use the one like in Oaxaca when they like oxygenate and do all
Yes,
the
similar to that. So um, in India, aqueous extraction is very popular. In Mexico, aqueous extraction is very popular. Water extraction. There are parts of Japan where they would do water extraction, but mostly it was drying the leaf and doing, or using it fresh, like using it immediately. So there's lots of different methods. I think that certain regions, it was about what was available to you, right? Like, was it easy to access water, or was it easier to dry the plant? Did you have a place to put the plants and soak them, right? Because you needed a big tank. Did you have the tools and the time and the people? So I think every culture developed their way of processing indigo based off of what was available, right?
Yeah. But I mean, you do that one? You do the last one, like the Indian one?
So I primarily I'm using the water extraction method in order to get wet pigment paste that can be used in a vat later. But I'll be embarking on my very first sukumo. That's why I have all these dried leaves. I'm going to be doing a very small scale version, and that is a process that I learned about through a couple of different people, and one of them I'm going to put their Instagram link in here. So Takayuki Ishii in Japan has made a book called The Way of Indigo, and if you click on his link here, Studio Owanoyo, you can buy the book, and it ships internationally. And he details the process of, it looks like I don't know if the link came through or not, but I can share it again later. But he details the process of doing a small version of that, a small version of sukumo composting the leaves. And I was able to learn through another artist that I'll put in here as well, and that's Deborah Ketchum-Jersic. She's actually a student of Takayuki Ishii, and she taught an online class, and the journey of doing this small-scale sukumo with his book, The Way of Indigo, as a guide. And this was online last year, and we were able to follow Deborah's journey of doing the small-scale sukumo. And I think Iris is on here. She's watching. She just processed her first sukumo as well. So I'm going to try and add some, for some reason my comments aren't working.
I don't know. It's weird.
Showing up? Okay. Deborah is Circle of Life Studio here on Instagram.
Okay.
Yeah. But you can translate first if you want.
Yeah. Well, first of all, that sounds amazing. Thanks a lot for sharing this information with us. Yeah. I would love to try some sukumo too, because, well, I have sukumo, but I would love to try to make my own, but I'm a little bit scared of it. But yeah,
it's like a real commitment.
Yeah, I know. For now, I already have some sukumo that it's already like made.
Made, yeah.
But yeah, later I need to make my own. Ok, entonces le pregunté que, esperen porque fue mucha información, que qué tipo de índigo ella crecía, si era índigo japonés. Entonces ella me dijo que esperen, es que, que el índigo japonés es es el más fácil de crecer, de cultivar. es muy fácil y hay muchos tintoreros que lo usan. De hecho, en México también lo han hecho, en Brasil, incluso en Noruega. Entonces realmente se puede como adaptar a todos los climas. También lo bueno de esta planta, de la Persitaria tintoria, que es el índigo japonés, es que es una planta que se puede sembrar varias veces al año. Entonces ella dice que es impresionante cómo ella corta la planta y vuelve a crecer, la corta y vuelve a crecer. Entonces, sobre todo los países que estamos más cerca al Ecuador o los países que son más calurosos, es mucho más fácil. Entonces, ella trasplanta la planta en mayo, después hace la cosecha unas 6 semanas después, que es más o menos en junio, y como les dije, la planta crece muy rápido, entonces hace de 3 a 4 cosechas. Y dice que incluso si ustedes ponen el tallo en agua, crece. Entonces muchas personas, sobre todo en el grupo que les digo que es Indigo Extraction Methods, ponen sus ejemplos de cómo lo hacen. Incluso hay una persona que lo está haciendo con hidroponía. Escribió un blog al respecto, pueden buscarlo en este grupo y lo ha hecho con éxito y ha funcionado muy bien. Y bueno, hay muchas formas distintas de extraer el índigo. Bueno, es un tema muy amplio, pero bueno, solamente para lo sepan, ella lo primero que pensó fue en licuarlo fresco y usarlo directamente. Hay una técnica para teñir con las hojas frescas. Después también hay otra técnica que es con las hojas secas, que es como la forma tradicional que se hace en Japón, que en algunos de mis posts he hablado sobre eso, que se llama sukumo, en donde se hace una composta. Entonces, en general en Asia, en varias partes como China, Japón, Filipinas, usan esta planta que es la persicaria y que es nativa a este lugar. Y a esta planta, como les digo, le encanta el agua. Entonces, por eso es ideal también hacerlo con hidroponía, si alguien quiere intentarlo. Y bueno, también dio varios ejemplos de personas que venden semillas. Entonces, en Estados Unidos hay una persona que se llama Ricketts Indigo, que vende semillas. Están los nombres más arriba en el chat si los quieren buscar. También está Grand Prismatic Seed. También tiene semillas. Pero bueno, ellos están en Estados Unidos. Nosotros, o los que estemos en México, dice que hay una chica en México que crece este tipo de semillas, pero sería cosa de entrar a su grupo de Facebook de Indigo Extraction Methods, y ahí le podemos escribir y ver cómo podemos conseguirlas. Entonces, bueno, ella al final sí termina haciendo 3 o 4 extracciones al año, que son las que se pueden dar en la región y con el clima que ella tiene. Al principio ella dice que casi no había nadie que lo hiciera. Ella empezó a hacer la extracción con 4 amigos y poco a poco se fueron agregando amigos que quisieron irlo compartiendo, personas que experimentan y que van compartiendo sus experiencias. Y bueno, hay muchas formas de hacer la extracción. Ahí, dependiendo los países y dependiendo los climas, se hace de forma distinta, como les dije hace rato, y como también lo hablamos, por ejemplo, con la otra entrevista que tuvimos justo antes de las fiestas navideñas. En Japón se hace con el sukumo. Ella nos habló también de eso. Y bueno, Brittany sobre todo hace la extracción con agua, que es la que se hace en la India y en México, que es se mezcla el agua, se oxigena el agua y se hace todo un proceso que es un poco largo, y después se crea una pasta y ella con la pasta después la deja secar y con eso puede usar el pigmento. Pero, bueno, es que fue demasiada información. Esperen. Ok. Bueno, también nos pasó unas recomendaciones de unos libros que enseñan si que nosotros queremos hacer nuestro propio sukumo, porque el sukumo, bueno, se puede hacer en grandes cantidades o puede hacer en pequeñas cantidades. Obviamente se necesita mucha paciencia y tiempo. Entonces nos escribió un libro que se llama The Way of Indigo y nos escribió una página que aquí, bueno, creo que es un Instagram, que aquí se los voy a escribir también. Y aquí te enseñan a hacer esta versión, pero en pequeño, por si alguien lo quiere intentar. Y bueno, yo creo que más bien les recomiendo que entren al grupo y ahí pueden ustedes buscar en la lupa y buscar exactamente qué quieren, y va a venir muchísima información, porque ya nos estamos pasando un poco de tiempo. So sorry, Brittany, it's a little bit late. Is that okay for you?
Oh yeah, I'm okay.
Okay. Sorry, it's just that it's too much information. So interesting. Thanks a lot. So, okay, let me just skip a few questions, or maybe I don't know. Can you show us some of your work, maybe?
Yeah, absolutely. I was also just holding up my hand to show what the pigment looks like after
Ah,
I
that's
extract it.
amazing. Nos está enseñando el pigmento de índigo, lo que veían en
So
su
it's like a thick paint, you know, it looks like paste. So
ya
this is
es
the
la pasta de índigo
mhm.
que la pueden ver en su
Mhm.
dedo.
And this is the raw pigment. I like to keep it wet so that it
You
goes
don't
right.
like to dry it?
No, I don't like to dry it because I'm going to put it in a vat and I want to rehydrate it right away, right? So I just keep it wet. And I just keep it in a jar in the refrigerator.
Oh, in the refrigerator.
Mhm.
Okay, that's good.
And to keep the mold from growing, you can
Yeah.
either add some more liquid or you can add like essential oils to keep the bacteria from growing. Sometimes it molds, but it's okay. That's not a big deal. But then it's ready for my vat. So this is my vat behind me, right
Okay.
here.
Atrás de ella está su baño de índigo. Ajá.
So this is actually something that I can show you that I've been working on is this vat table. So the vat you can see is in the table. So it's not sitting on the table. It's actually inside. And it's there's a shelf down here that it's sitting on. There's just a cloth on the front. But
So
I can actually...
So that helps the vat to stay a little bit warmer? Is that it? Or not?
A couple things. I can take you over and do a little tour. You want to see?
If you want, yeah.
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 Okay. So the reason I wanted it in the table is a couple reasons. When I'm standing at the vat table, it's ergonomic. It's easier. So I used to use these. Can you see these?
Yeah.
Yeah, I used to use a metal pot and I would heat it on a burner, right? But it's really hard for me to stand over it because it's too high, right? It was too high and I couldn't easily dip inside of it. And then also, I didn't like that I was using a lot of propane gas.
Yeah.
For a lot of reasons. I can't do that inside because the fumes are toxic, right? And so I wanted something that was safer. And a lot of people use hot plates. So they'll put like a burner and then a pot on top on a table. But that was also really awkward for me. It was too tall.
Okay, yeah, I can understand that.
I asked my husband to make me a table that I could put my vat inside of. So this is a hole that's cut, right?
Yeah.
And so my vat sits in the table. And so it's at the level, right? It's at my waist down here.
Okay.
So you can see how easy it is for me to stick my hands in and dye my cloth in here. So one of the main reasons was my body, ergonomics. I wanted it to be comfortable to dye in here, but also I wanted to use heat a little more efficiently. So this is how I heat my vat. I'll show you. It's called a heat wand or a submersible wand. And sorry, let me grab it.
How is it called? A heat?
So this is a submersible wand that has just an electrical component. And so you plug it in.
Yeah.
So it just uses a little bit of electricity. Really not much electricity at all. It's very low wattage. So I can actually plug it in. So I have power. I have an electrical outlet in my table. So this is a design that my husband and I have been working on to make available to other dyers and artists so that they can have an efficient space to work in. So it's got the table, it has power, I can heat it with my wand, I can monitor the temperature with this, and it actually, this is called an ink bird. and it connects to my phone, and I can control the heat from my phone app.
That's so amazing.
So this
because I tried to use those submersible heaters, and I don't know if they were too little or small, but they didn't work with me. They didn't have like enough power to really heat indigo bath. But that's
this one is 1,000 watts.
Okay.
So this is a tool that they use to put in animal water troughs, and they use it to heat the water so it doesn't freeze in the wintertime. And it can get really hot. It can get boiling, and so I don't want it that hot for my indigo vat. So that's why I use this. This is the ink bird that controls the temperature, and it has a temperature probe. Oh, here's a little piece coming out of the vat, my little tester for the day.
Wow, that's really, really great.
So I can control the temperature, yeah.
Let me translate really quickly what you said. Bueno, lo que nos está enseñando, les explico rápido, nos está dando un tour por su taller y nos está diciendo que ella tiene, no sé si vieron, como una mesa, y en medio de la mesa tiene su baño de índigo. Entonces ella lo hizo por varias razones. La primera fue por que ergonómicamente para su espalda y para su cuerpo es mucho más fácil usarlo así, porque ella antes usaba como ollas de metal, bueno, que son como las que uso yo, de acero inoxidable. Ella usaba esas ollas, pero no se sentía cómoda usándolas. Tenía como una forma de calentarlas en donde usaba gas. Ay, espérenme. ¿Dónde anoté esto? Bueno, gas, propane gas, bueno, que usaba un gas que realmente no era muy seguro tenerlo dentro de la casa. Entonces no le gustó esa forma. Después tuvo una estufa, pero le quedaba la olla le quedaba muy alta y tampoco se le hacía cómodo. Entonces ella le pidió a su esposo que le hiciera esta mesa que tiene en medio el índigo, entonces queda bastante práctico porque es como estar en una mesa normal. Y la forma como ella la calienta es con una resistencia. Son estos calentadores que se pueden meter al agua y que se conectan a la electricidad. Entonces yo le decía que yo he intentado con esos, pero al parecer yo creo que han sido resistencias muy pequeñas porque nunca me calentaron realmente lo que yo necesitaba. Entonces, bueno, se me hizo muy interesante y es otra forma también si ustedes quieren intentar calentar sus baños de índigo. Dice que el de ellas tiene 1000 watts y por eso funciona muy bien. De hecho, dice que hasta puede llegar a hervir y ella lo tiene conectado a un termómetro. No sé si lo vieron, como un aparatito que aparte está conectado a su celular. Entonces, con todo eso, ella puede checar realmente la temperatura que tiene su baño de índigo y que no se pase. Entonces, se me hace muy interesante.
I'll just show you a couple of other pieces. So this is dyed with my homegrown madder and indigo.
Oh, that's so good. Yeah, amazing.
And I've been working a lot on creating what's called resist shapes. And in Japan, there's a traditional wood block called itadime, where they take 2 pieces of wood and clamp it together. And I used to carve my own wood shapes to make patterns.
That's so great. Nos está enseñando su trabajo, el itajime, que es cuando ponían 2 pedazos de madera de un lado y otro para crear resistencia. Eso es lo que estamos viendo.
Yeah, and so I started creating wooden ones, but when you put wood in water, it warps and it cracks and it breaks over time. So a lot of the wooden pieces that I created were just getting destroyed over time. So my husband and I created these that are made on a 3D printer. And we used recycled plastic filament to make, I don't know if you can see these very well, but these are made out of recycled plastic. And this is printed on a 3D printer bed. So a 3D printer machine builds the design from the bottom up, like a pancake.
Yeah.
And then it can create identical shapes.
Great.
And these are waterproof.
Okay, let me tell them.
Yeah.
ella dice que antes ella hacía como sus figuras de madera para hacer el itajime. Ella las hacía, ajá, o sea, con madera y todo era más artesanal, pero ahora ella ha decidido hacerlo con una impresora 3D, porque aparte de que la madera en algún momento como que ya esas figuras se rompían o ya no servían, ella usa ahora plástico reciclado y hace ahora sus propias figuras como las que ven en la pantalla, todas son iguales y con esta impresora 3D y con plástico ya pueden estar en el agua las veces que sea y no se hacen feas. Great. That's really, really amazing, Brittany.
So this is how they work. You put your fiber inside, right, like a little sandwich,
Pones
and
ahí,
then you tighten it down.
lo bajas
And then this goes into your vat.
y eso va dentro del baño.
And when it comes out, when you're done dyeing, you
Y
take
cuando
this off
de
and you
teñir,
can create different shapes.
salen
So we
esas
have
como las que ven.
like stars and mushrooms and regular patterns, basic shapes like circles, triangles, squares. And we sell these products also to other dyers. So something that's important to me is offering tools that are designed efficiently for dyeing. Because most natural dyers have to be really creative and borrow things from other industries,
Yeah.
right? Other craft trades, like woodworking, right? Like these clamps are from woodworking. Or we have to take a pot from, kitchen, right? And so we combine all of these different elements, and sometimes it works really well. Sometimes a lot of cross-pollination happens and it's easy, but sometimes it's not quite right for a dyer, right? So there are certain tools that can, I think, be developed in a sustainable way, make it easy for dyers to use, because I can honestly tell you when I first started dyeing, there was a lot of waste. Like I created a lot of waste because I didn't know how to efficiently use my tools. And I didn't have the right tools because the right tools didn't really exist. Like you can go online and you can buy fiber, and you can go online and you can buy natural dye, but you can't buy tools. Like there are no tools. There's no pot. There's no vessel. There isn't even a spoon. They don't even recommend a pot for you to buy, right? So I thought that was interesting, that we all kind of have to collect what we have. And people make it work, which is amazing. But there's always these things I wish were different, like the table, right? Or like that my shapes were always breaking, and that creates a lot of waste in both time and energy and money, right? And so one of the things I'm really focused on right now is creating efficient tools that are designed for dyers specifically.
Wow, that's amazing. Let me translate. Okay. Ella dice que estas figuras que nos enseñó, ella las vende, de hecho las pueden encontrar en su página si quieren. Y bueno, para ella es muy importante como encontrar las herramientas correctas para los tintoreros, porque muchas veces todos acabamos improvisando con lo que encontramos y con cosas que realmente no están hechos para lo que son. Entonces, bueno, para ello es muy importante tener estos productos como disponibles, que son específicamente para eso y que nos pueden servir para teñir. Ok. Maybe we can just finish with some last question. Yeah, because there was a lot of really, really, really great information.
Thank you.
Well, just to finish and changing the subject a little bit, what is alchemy to you?
I love that word. One of my favorite books is The Alchemist. Have you read that book?
Yeah, I love it.
Yeah. Okay. I think alchemy has probably a lot of different meanings to different people. to me, I directly relate it. The transmutation is the word that's used a lot with alchemy. Alchemy is like transmuting something. It could be anything. It could be metals. It could be natural dyes, right? It could be dye plants. It could be wood. It could be a lot of different art forms, I think. To me, the process of alchemy is connecting to the source, and kind of letting the source inform you about how it can be used instead of the other way around. So a lot of times as artists, we want to tell our, whatever it is we use, we want to tell our dye what we want it to be, right? Like, I want it to be bright yellow, or I want it to be this color blue, right? I want it to be dark, dark, midnight black blue. But when you're working with natural dyes, you're transmuting, you're creating in a way that you don't have a lot of control over. You have some control, but you don't have ultimate control. And I think working alchemically with plants means you give up some control. You allow the plants to inform you about what color you're going to get instead of the other way around. Does that make sense?
Yeah. I'm writing it down, sorry.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I agree with you. Yeah, totally. Ok. Le pregunté que qué era alquimia para ella, ya cambiando ahora sí el tema ya para terminar, porque ya nos pasamos un poco. Entonces ella me dice que la alquimia es una de sus palabras favoritas. De hecho, se acordó del libro El alquimista de Paulo Coelho. Entonces, entonces dice que la alquimia tiene diferentes significados para diferentes personas, pero en general también se relaciona mucho con la palabra transmutación, transmutar. Y bueno, se pueden transmutar metales, se pueden transmutar los tintes naturales, la madera, lo que sea en realidad. Y el proceso de alquimia para ella es el proceso de conectarte con la fuente, porque a veces los artistas queremos como que decirle al tinte lo que queremos que sea. No sé, queremos que salga de este color, queremos que salga de esta manera, queremos tener un azul color medianoche, pero al final cuando trabajas con tintes, lo transmutas de una forma que no tienes mucho control sobre lo que va a pasar. Tienes un poco de control, pero no totalmente. Entonces, es también como trabajar alquímicamente con las plantas, dejar y soltar un poco ese control y dejar que ellas sean realmente las que decidan qué van a hacer. Entonces, sí tenemos un poco de control nosotros, pero también lo dejamos como a la alquimia y a las plantas. Muy lindo lo que dijo. So do you think of your artistic work as an alchemical path? Maybe it can just like heal you or transform you in a certain way?
Yeah, absolutely. I think for me, indigo particularly has become such a teacher and metaphor for life. It's how I've learned really about everything. I know that sounds dramatic, but I've learned about the world perspective through indigo. I've learned about my place as an artist and what I can offer to community through indigo. I've learned about connecting to my natural world through indigo. It's been my teacher for everything, and that's not an exaggeration. And so, yeah, physically, spiritually, mentally, I've been connected to natural dyes in every possible way. And most importantly to me, it's how I've learned about the world and connected with other people. It's my friendships. A lot of them have blossomed through my connection with natural dyes. It's made the connection to place where I live and my community more meaningful to me, to be involved with the natural dye process for sure.
Ok, entonces le pregunté que si ella siente que si estos procesos alquímicos como que le ayudan a sanar y la transforman de una cierta manera. Entonces ella dice que sí, que ella dice que el índigo se ha vuelto un gran maestro para ella. Ella aprende sobre todo con el índigo, se ha vuelto su maestro y aunque suene muy dramático, realmente le ayuda a ver de una forma distinta el mundo, a ver su lugar como una artista y también a entender cómo puede ella como relacionarse con la comunidad, cómo involucrarse con su entorno. Ella dice que realmente esto no es una exageración, espiritualmente y mentalmente ella se conecta con los tintes naturales de muchísimas maneras, se conecta con las personas, sus amigos, todo está como relacionado con esto. Entonces, eso fue lo que ella nos dice. Entonces, well, maybe, um, well, yeah, just to finish, what message would you give to other designers, artists, and entrepreneurs who want to follow their dreams?
Yeah, that's a great thing to ponder. I think, especially right now in the world today, it's so overwhelming when we look at, I think, the possibilities of what we can create. We see so many other artists because of the internet, right? We see other art. We're influenced by a lot of other artists, but also we're really influenced by money. We're influenced by commerce, by what we can sell and what we can buy. And I think for me, creating happens most meaningfully when I'm doing it for community. So when I create, I actually don't have a lot of things that I've made because I either give them away or I sell them. I had to run around like finding things to show you because I don't keep a lot of what I make. Because for me personally, it's about connecting to my place and the people around me. And so that is the spirit out of which I want to continue to create, to nurture community and to build that. And of course, money is always a part of our world. It's how we go around, right? We can't live outside of the materialistic culture that we have, but I think we can influence it and make it better, improve it. And so I'm really interested in those kind of subversive ways that we can do that together. And one of them is sharing online like we do. But I think my advice for other artists would be find your connection to source. And it doesn't have to be natural dyes. It doesn't have to be indigo. But find that thing that passionately moves you, that makes you feel affected and different. And I think that when you find that thing, you'll be inspired to share it. You'll be inspired to create with it. You'll be inspired to let it move you in the alchemical way where it informs you rather than you just trying to get something from it, to take from it, right? So working with natural dyes is about what the plant gives you, not what you give it. And that's a great lesson. It's a really humbling lesson to have a plant tell you, right, what it's going to do. So I think, yeah, exploring your place in community and your connection with source, with natural source, meaning the natural spaces around you, I think is the most impactful thing for me as an artist.
Thank you, Brittany. Ok. Le pregunté ya por último que qué mensaje le daría a otros diseñadores, artistas o emprendedores que quieren seguir sus sueños. Entonces ella me dice que esa es una pregunta muy importante, sobre todo en el mundo que vivimos el día de hoy. Y bueno, hay muchísimas probabilidades de todo lo que podemos crear. Con internet siempre estamos viendo artistas que nos están influenciando. Nos influencia también el comercio y el dinero, todo lo que podemos comprar y vender al mismo tiempo. Y bueno, ella también se ha dado cuenta que la creación, el crear, sucede mucho mejor cuando se hace en comunidad. Ella, por ejemplo, ahorita no tiene muchas de sus creaciones que ella ha hecho de sus teñidos, porque casi todo o lo regala o lo vende. Pero dice que Para ella es muy importante también conectarse con su lugar y con la gente a su alrededor. Y eso es el espíritu de lo que ella quiere seguir creando. Porque el dinero siempre va a estar en nuestro mundo, no podemos salir realmente de esta cultura materialista, pero podemos influenciarla e intentar ser mejores. Entonces, bueno, a ella le interesa esas formas de hacer cosas juntos en comunidad. Ella recomienda que encontremos nuestras conexiones, que no tienen que ser nuestras pasiones, no tiene que ser a fuerzas tintes naturales o índigo, puede ser cualquier cosa, encontrar eso que nos mueve, que nos apasiona, que nos hace sentir conectados con los demás. Y a la hora de que lo encontremos, entonces vamos a estar inspirados a compartirlo, vamos a estar más conectados. Y también algo que me gustó mucho que dijo es que no vamos a intentar, o lo ideal sería no intentar sacar algo de esto, sino más bien cómo podemos dar algo más a esto. Como verlo al revés, como nos decía ya hace rato de los tintes, que cuando estamos tiñendo no tenemos como que intentar controlarlo, sino más bien dejar que esto sea al revés. Igualmente con esto es más como no voy a intentar sacar algo de esto, sino qué puedo yo dar, qué puedo yo agregar, qué puedo yo dar para que sea al revés. Y me pareció una filosofía muy, muy bonita. Y bueno, en conclusión, ella dice que lo importante es explorar tu lugar, estar comunicada, tener una comunidad y tu conexión con lugares naturales. Entonces, ese fue como el mensaje final que nos dio Brittany. Thanks a lot, Brittany. That was really, really nice.
Thank you.
So,
Gracias.
thanks a lot for your time. I don't know if you want to say anything else or if someone wants to ask any questions. Si alguien quiere hacerle alguna pregunta o quiere agregar algo.
Yeah, I can just encourage anyone who's watching to join us in the Indigo Pigment Extraction Methods group. There's also a link in my bio. You can just click on my Instagram link and join the group. It's an international group, so you don't need to speak English to join. I think Facebook does an okay job of translating. Would you think that it does an okay job of translating posts from Spanish to English?
Yeah. I think it's, yeah.
I think more and more people are sharing there. So I think the more people who can come and join, the more languages, the more places are represented. And I really want to encourage that. So please come and join the group. And if you're interested in growing indigo, it's a great place to learn. There's also several interviews that one you were involved in, with interviewing Raul Panton, Spanish. So people can watch that interview through the Blue Biography series. There's another interview recently with Malu interviewing another farmer in Mexico, in Niltepec. And so there's other interviews not just in English, but also in Spanish. And I'd like more of those. So the more people who can join and influence the group, and sharing in other languages, I really love to see it. It doesn't have to be all in English. So, I just encourage people to share and come and join. And I just appreciate you. I appreciate everything you're doing for the community of natural dyers and for educating people about natural dyes. It's super important that we share with people who don't want to be growers. Not everyone is going to be a grower and not everyone is going to be a dyer, but they might be a supporter or a consumer or a community member who helps, right? Or appreciates.
Yeah, thanks a lot, Brittany. Let me tell them that in Spanish. Bueno, ella dice que recuerden que ella tiene un grupo que se llama, ya se los escribí en el chat, Indigo Pigment Extraction Methods. ¿Sí? Y un grupo de Facebook, ustedes pueden buscarlo, pueden pedir unirse y realmente les dice que entren en ese grupo, hay muchísima información, si quieren empezar a crecer su índigo o si quieren saber más al respecto, si quieren tener más información, no tiene que ser solamente en inglés, hay gente de todo el mundo, entonces incluso en español, por ejemplo está Raúl Pontón también ahí, que ustedes ya lo conocen, hay muchísimas personas ahí, entonces no tengan miedo de entrar solamente porque esté en inglés, podemos compartirlo también, creo que se traduce a veces, entonces no se preocupen por eso, entren al grupo, Ella también hace algunas entrevistas. Tiene una serie muy interesante que se llama Blue Biographies, biografías
Mhm.
azules, en donde ella hace entrevistas también a diferentes personas relacionadas con el índigo, entonces también chequen eso. Y sí, bueno, que estuvo agradecida de estar aquí con nosotros. Y bueno, thanks a lot, Brittany. Really, it was really interesting listening to your story and learning all these different methods that you use. Really, thank you.
Thank you. Thanks for letting me share. And I look forward to talking to you again. Thanks to
Yeah,
everyone who's watching. Muchas gracias.
yeah. That would be great. Thanks, Brittany. And also, if you want, I make these interviews every week, every Thursday at 11 a.m. Central Time or Mexico time. So I interview different dyers, artists, designers, and they tell us their story, their path, so we can get also inspired. So if you want, they are all these interviews are in my feed. And well, thanks a lot for being here and for listening to us. Muchísimas gracias a todos por haberse conectado, por escucharnos. Recuerden que cada semana se están haciendo estas entrevistas los jueves a las 11 de la mañana, hora México o hora del centro. Y bueno, estamos entrevistando a diferentes diseñadores, tintoreros, gente involucrada en el mundo de los textiles para que nos inspiren con sus historias. Entonces, muchas gracias. Thanks a lot. And see
Thank
you.
you. Bye. Thanks,
Bye.
everyone. Adios.
Adiós.